Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Speech from the crew Arrested Development, and this is the Everyday People podcast. And we're going to be talking about gender roles. So, yo, we must fight and win. It's a united front of united minds. It's reigning revolution, revelation, and revolution. Everyday people pride. Underneath the sun and in the sunshine. So let your voice be heard and ease your mind. Because someone's whole world can change in one day. And we got a lot of things to do. Let's go. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about gender roles. And so, because I'm a deeply wise man, I said last 2 episodes has been 1 man and 3 women. Incredible women.
Thank you.
But I said, with my wisdom, let me invite an incredible other man here so that we can have some more man energy in the room.
Yeah, we'll clap for the man.
Yes. So I want to introduce Perry over here. He's an incredible entrepreneur. He's also my trainer. He's Tiffany's trainer as well, and sometimes even Zoe's trainer.
I pop in here.
And he owns numerous businesses. He's a great guy. He's just a guy that I've spent a lot of time with. We've actually quarantined, in a sense. We've quarantined together. Yeah. We've had almost every day. We spend a lot of time together. I know his family incredibly well. We all do. Mm-hmm. And then this is Tiffany Williams once again.
Hey, my baby sister.
It's my queen's baby sister.
Much younger sister.
And this is my daughter, Zoe Renee.
My boo bear.
Hello.
Where's
Wow.
I am Mr. Speech, as I already said, and this is my queen of 30 years, 25 married, Miss Yolanda.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk about gender roles because I think it's so important, and this society has changed so much over the years. You know, we had the traditional gender roles, but I think this society that we now live in, a lot of people have a lot of different views on gender roles. And so I wanted to play a video to kick us off, and it's by a sister named Shahrazad Ali. Yes.
Shahrazad
I've heard of her since the 80s, and I personally think she's amazing, and I think she at the least. So I think she came out with this the book, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman, in 1989. And so I'm going to play a clip, and we're going to see the black women literally fumigate in just a second. Let's have a close-up of the black women as they fumigate after hearing this sister speak.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so, okay, here we go. Let's vibe, and let's see what's being said here.
My position is that the black woman's disrespect and rebellion against the leadership and the authority of the black man is a direct cause of the breakdown in our black family structure. Now, of course, there are many black people who consider those fighting words because as black women, we have never been subject to the kind of examination that our men have been subject to since we have been here. We have been somewhat protected and shielded from any kind of critiquing about our personal behavior, whereas our men have always been up for examination. The book is not an attack on black women. I have never said that all black women do everything that I list in my book. None of us have lived long enough to do everything that I list in the book, but most of us do some of the things that I've listed in my book. And I do say that it is not because of generalizations that we are all victimized by some of the negative patterns of behavior in the book, but the book just represents our collective contribution. This is some of everything that we have done, or that we do daily, that contributes to the breakup of our relationship, the destruction of our man, and the failure of our children to be able to function. They did not tell us that all of that, being my own person and I'm independent, would lead to separation, loneliness, celibacy, and lesbianism. They didn't tell us that if you give up the man, you're going to take one of these things and it's worse and it will destroy your nation. They didn't give us that information. They made us think that it was some kind of glorified position to brag about the fact that I got my own job, my own credit card, my own car, so I don't need no man. I don't even know how we got that mixed up. Ain't none of that got nothing to do with being with no man. We have some serious relationship problems that nobody has been able to address us on because everybody wants to pretend that this is not going on. Over 60% of our women are single, widowed, separated, or divorced. They don't have a man. I just came out of Florida, and they got a housing complex that the Urban League built, which is a black organization that is for women and children only. They say they don't allow any men in there. I didn't have time to deal with it, but I talked about them real bad. That's the silliest program I've ever heard of. You know them women that had men if they got a bunch of children. They need fathers. They need protection. We hear about the drug problem that we have in our projects across the country. It's one of the major places that we have a drug problem. You know, we talk about the great strength that we have as black women. Well, the welfare department don't rent government apartments to single black men. Those apartments belong to black women who are allowing this to go on in their home. We have not looked at what part of the responsibility do we share. Yes, black men sell a lot of drugs, and a lot of us black women get the money from them drugs and buy some of these fancy clothes we wear. Drive around in some of these fancy cars. He is not doing these things alone and without support from us, whether they are good or bad. See, we have a lot of power. We are very strong women. I'm saying that we're using our strength in the wrong direction.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it just for a second because this is an 8-minute clip. Obviously, we can keep going.
I hope we get a chance to keep going.
We should, and we must. We
She
must.
goes deeper.
She does. She goes deeper. Let's just stop there because there's a lot to chew on, right?
Yes. Yeah. for sure.
So just based on that, we want to talk about gender roles. She talks about black gender roles. I think that's a great place for us to start because we're all black in here. So what do y'all think about just the basic, premise that she put out?
I don't know if I agree.
Okay, so what don't you... Yeah, I figured because you're a millennial, you're a different generation. You guys have different thoughts. This was done in 1989. I do agree with her, but what do you feel? What's your feeling?
I struggle to hear her in a way that is anything that I'd like to digest. Like, okay. I don't think that she comes from a place of love. I don't think that she, like, what her words don't hit me in any way because it does not feel like, it just does not feel like anything that I want. I don't want to hear it.
Right.
Mostly because, and I'd have to like really get my argument together on this because,
yeah, we take our time.
It's a little tough for me, but I think that from what I heard, she is saying that basically it's the black woman's fault, the situation we're in. And to me, I look at it completely different because I feel like this country was built off the backs of black women.
Okay.
Is really how I feel. We have raised and continue to raise the children, the movers, the shakers of this country. And to me, I think it is in the soul of a black woman that peace and everything is at. So
come on. Come on.
I disagree with Shahrazad.
Well, for me, I feel like I feel like I don't knock out what anybody believes. I just don't want to feel like it's going to be forced on me. So I feel Shahrazad, is that it? That's Shahrazad. You can believe whatever you
Shahrazad
want.
Ali.
It's fine if that's what you've been.
That's her experience.
That's her experience, and so it's okay.
It's totally not ours,
right? It is totally fine. And and for me, I feel like with gender roles, I think it's totally fine for like me and you. I feel like we have our specific gender roles, but we've decided what they're going to be in our family. Like, you are the provider, and I'm happy with that.
Right.
But there's certain things that would be considered, something that a man would just totally do or a woman would do. We've switched it up. Like, I pay the bills. You know what I mean? But that could be like, well, you guys aren't following the gender rules, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I
mean, my experience, most families I know, the women do pay the bills. Meaning, a lot of times women are more, they're just better at some of those details. The way I see it, this is what I've seen in my life. So I'm glad Perry's here. We'll see what other people's experiences are. But in my life, I've seen that men are better an overarching understanding of what's going on with the family. So, okay, like this is what we're overall trying to do. To me, women tend to be better.
I know. the overarching.
Women tend to be better.
I think your wording is a little.
Your wording, your language,
a little triggering.
is triggering.
And then the women they're very detail oriented in a lot of these ways.
Yeah.
So like they can, take care of the bills if they're good at that. Some women aren't good at that. So of course you talk through it. But yeah, to Shahrazad Ali, I think she hits on some beautiful things. I don't feel like it's a topic.
I'd like to hear the beautiful things.
Yeah.
I think even in what we just played,
and I want specifics.
Yes. Okay. Like, to me, I don't think we've gotten to the deepest part.
Perry, I need you.
Well, as a person
Right.
who's viewed this before,
Right.
Yeah.
I believe in her philosophy, and I would like to tell you that she does come from a place of love.
She does. I agree.
It's not an attack. She said it in the beginning. She don't want you to think that all black women do anything. Nothing happens in a vacuum.
Right.
But I am a person who came from a traditional family, and I believe in gender roles.
Right.
And I think we would have to listen to more so you can get to the gist of it. But based on
we'll listen
based
to more.
on what your wife said, that okay, let's say paying bills. I agree with Speech. The traditional role is the man makes the money, he brings it home. A lot of times, at least with my grandparents, my grandfather worked. He would bring home his whole check, give it to his wife.
Right. Yeah.
She pays the bills, and she gives him spending money. So it's actually an empowerment thing. You control.
You like that?
Right.
She like that, ladies and gentlemen.
You actually control the household. The woman is
exactly
the head
right.
of the household.
It's very important.
She knows where the money needs to go, and she knows how much. The man is worried about the big picture, and the details are fine tuned by the queen. So
I personally thoroughly agree with that.
I agree with that.
I don't have a problem with that either.
If that works for your family, great.
I agree. And
Right.
they're single. They're just what do they call, like
Single parents? Or?
single parents?
Yes. Yes. What are they called?
They're single.
Can we talk about shelter?
They're in that particular planet.
Right, they're single and they have children.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Single parents,
Right.
but they have to do it all. They have to go out, work, and they
Exactly.
have to come home and pay the bills. They have to clean the house. They have to cook. So,
Okay, go ahead.
Can I just say this?
Yes, you can.
To Perry and Dad, if I am the breadwinner in my family, and I'm coming home 16-hour day offset, oof, so tired.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
What are you saying to me? What, I go home and...
No, kick off your shoes. Get in the kitchen.
What are you saying?
Right.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
That's what gender roles are, right? In a
No,
world,
I'm joking.
in a
I'm joking
world
about
where we
that.
think, okay, the man goes and he makes the money, the wife is at home.
That's not the reality
Yeah,
so
that's
much
not the
anymore.
reality.
And that's
It's
what I wanted to
definitely
say.
not the reality.
No, it isn't. And that's why it does need to be addressed, right? Because the truth is, statistically, today, 70 to 80% of black women are the sole breadwinners of the household,
Let's talk about
Right.
it.
which changes a lot. And let me just give you the difference between black women and Hispanic women. Only 30% of Hispanic women are the sole breadwinners of their household.
Yeah.
Only 20% of white women are the sole breadwinners of their household. This is according to stats that I researched, right?
Yeah.
I think that what that says is that, number one, well, I want to ask y'all, because I have an idea of what that means. What do those stats mean for people? Because it's not the same across the United States,
Right.
meaning black women are doing most of the footing right now in our families. Hispanic women are doing much less than black women, and white women are doing even less than Hispanic women. And by the way, Asian and other nationalities are doing even less than the white women.
Right.
So what do we feel about that? What does that mean?
I feel like the gender roles need to change because of those stats just in general. Like, if I make more money, if I'm, like, I feel like things have to shift a bit in the house.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we might have to readdress what these gender roles are.
Yeah.
Because when the man was making all the money,
Right.
whatever, so the wife is expected to do these things. And so now that the women make the black women make more money, shouldn't it be addressed?
Absolutely.
Like, am I expected to, if I make the majority of the money, am I expected to then come home and give the kids a bath and take them to soccer and do the dishes and do the homework and all the cleaning, the cooking, the things the women do, and I'm the breadwinner?
Short answer is yes.
Come on.
Short.
See what he says.
The short answer is yes, because we're. Close your mouth, Zoe. The short answer is yes, because we're conflicting two different things. We're conflicting breadwinner, and we're conflicting time. The first thing you said was, if I'm the breadwinner, what does the breadwinner mean? You make the most money?
Yes.
I can make the most money and not spend the most time outside of the household. I can be an investor, which I can work at home and receive the majority of the money. So because you make the most money, it doesn't separate the fact your responsibilities. In my household, we talk about it all of the time, right? And I understand different people think about it different ways.
Right.
But in my household, I don't care who makes the most money, because it's supposed to be ours,
right,
not yours and mine. But this is in a married household or a family household. This is ours. So we still have responsibilities. I still have a responsibility as a husband and a father, and you still have a responsibility as a wife and a mother. So you can't deviate those responsibilities based on the amount of money that you make.
So what if in that scenario, Perry, what if the woman is out working? Let's say she's a lawyer, though. She's not an investor. She's not just on the computer or various things like that. And let's say she's out, she's doing law, court cases, blah, 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 research. She comes home, let's say 8 o'clock, and the husband, let's just say, for argument's sake, that he is an investor and he's doing online stuff. And let's say he makes a little less or the same amount. It doesn't matter. I love what you just said, because I think that as married couples in particular and families in particular, you know, that the money shouldn't be divvied up so staunchly. But what do you say in those situations where she is out, he is in, and you know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, I'll tell you, in my situation, right, I consider myself the breadwinner. Because I don't know exactly how much money she makes. Right. And that doesn't matter, because it's our money.
Right.
The money goes in, and how it gets divvied up or whatever, it gets divvied up. But I'll say this. Personally, I still have responsibilities as a father and a husband. If she's out of the household, on a set 16 hours, I do not expect you to come home. And by the time you get home, the baby's already taken a bath. She's already in the bed. So you'll do those
types of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
Okay.
It goes back and forth.
It does.
Oh, hey, we have no problem.
There are some men, I've heard the stories, of some men who won't lift a finger to do any of those type of things.
That's what I have a problem with.
Right, exactly.
Well, let's put it this way. I always say, I think this is my term. I heard it from somewhere. I say women will be submissive to a true king, not the court jester.
Okay.
So,
come on.
a true king would not expect his wife to come home from 16 hours and, okay, so what are we eating tonight?
Right.
Okay.
That should have already been taken care of.
I thoroughly.
We got you. We have no problems with you.
I think no one has a problem
None.
in this room.
No.
Okay, so here's the deal. To me, I agree with what you're saying, because people misunderstand leadership.
Right.
Because to me, men are supposed to be leaders.
Yes.
Right.
But people misunderstand and distort what that means. Any good leader, like you are in the service.
Right.
I've led groups all my life. I've led businesses all my life. A good leader, first of all, knows how to follow at times.
First.
Any good leader knows how to follow, because they got to know what it takes for any, like people that's working under them or side of them or however you want to look at it.
Right.
You got to know what it takes to do what they do.
Right.
Because then you have an understanding of how much you should expect or what you shouldn't expect. What you're asking from them. That's, to me, good leadership. You understand the people that's doing the work with you or for you, right?
Right.
And so people misunderstand. And so anybody who's abusing leadership is already just whack.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so a man could do that, a woman could do that. But when men do that, that's whack right off the bat because you're not being a true and real leader.
Right.
And I agree with what you said. I do
Yeah.
believe in, and I have friends, and I'll talk about it in a second, that disagree with what you just said and what I'm about to say, which is that I think a woman would be happy to submit. And we'll get into what submit means.
Because I hate that word.
I know that.
I hate that word on off jump. Once we get into what it means and
Yes.
that it plays both sides,
It's
Right.
fine.
it's
Right.
fine.
Exactly, and we'll get into what it means because it has become a perverse word.
Yes.
nowadays.
Because it's only used one-sided.
That's right.
Typically.
Not with me, but I agree.
But I
that
don't hear
maybe
it.
others
I'll
may
hear
do
it
that.
often from you talking about a man.
Right.
That's
The
You're saying
man
what
being
now?
submissive.
Oh, you don't hear it often coming from me.
Not from you.
Right.
It's typically talking about women. It's
Right.
typically,
You're making this personal.
No,
Right.
no, Yolanda, she
keep it general.
She cleared it up for me last week when we were talking about being submissive and things like that. She did say that you do tell men that they need to be submissive.
Always.
and
Absolutely,
things like
yeah.
So
that.
let me
yeah.
just say then I feel like a woman would be happy to, and I'm gonna go a little further. Y'all may disagree with me on this. I personally feel that even women want to, and what I've said on Facebook, I got slayed for it. So let me just give applause to those that slayed me. I got slayed for this, but what I said on Facebook was that I believe every woman wants to be submissive to a man, and they don't even really want the top position of all the responsibility. They actually want to be taken care of. I'm not saying in every single way, and like they're babies and they're incapable or they're lesser than, but they want to be taken care of in certain aspects, and they do run other aspects. But I think that when a man is really providing his role as a man, he can accomplish that, and women would want to be submissive to that. Right. But there is submissiveness of men as well. And I'll read a scripture that I go by as a Christian. Let me find it right now, actually, because I wrote it down. Let me find it. Let me see here. Okay. In 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, it says, "Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives. Treat them with respect as the weaker partner." I know that has a...
Whoa, God.
Let's just breathe in. Let's all take a collective sigh.
I was like,
Let's
is
take a
that the one
collective
we're going
breath
to
in.
start with? Let's.
Whoa,
Okay.
God.
Okay.
Whoa, God.
As the weaker partners and as heirs with you, which is what you were talking about, together, you guys are together, heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. That's just one scripture. There's another scripture, I want to say it's in Ephesians right now, that says, wives, be submissive to your husbands, and husbands also be submissive to your wives.
I only hear the first part of that. Like
Yeah.
when
Wives be submissive. Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that is an example of bad leadership or stewardship, if you're a pastor or wherever you heard that from. People should, if they're going to read the scriptures or really lead anything, they should be able to be fair about what it's saying,
Right.
and what they really
Right.
believe. So anyway, I do think that, I'm going to mess her name up. Miss Ali.
Shahrazad.
Miss Ali.
Miss
Love
Ali,
it.
I'm just going to say.
Love it.
Miss Ali, I respect her, and I would love to meet her. I never met you. If I have met you back in the 90s, forgive me. But I think that she would ultimately address the fact that men have to provide, they have to be allowed to be men and expected to be men
Yes.
in order for us to truly lead our communities the way and lead. I have to make caveats on a lot of these words because they've become so toxic. So like the word lead has become toxic. Like I see the side.
No, I'm listening. I really am listening.
So I think that men should have the ultimate responsibility of leading. And it's funny when it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy to me. When you expect people to be excellent, people can live up to that expectation. I think for men, if we are allowed to be men and expected to be excellent, that men will live up to it. So anyway, I don't know what I lost my whole train of
Well, no,
thought.
I agree with that. And let me start by saying this, right?
Yeah.
struggle with this topic because I've spent so much time with older people, such as you guys, and I've heard your views, and they start to
people that are old.
Yes. No, they start to make sense in that I see how you guys work, I see how your family works, I see how Perry's family works, and I understand that it works, right? Like, I understand that having a strong male figure in the house works, and it has been a benefit to me. It's been a benefit to Monty. It's been a benefit to Madison. So I struggle with the idea that, I don't know. I'm struggling with this whole idea that basically there is a certain part that I will have to play eventually when I get married or start a family that is under this umbrella of what a woman should do, of what a woman is supposed to do. And I don't think I naturally fall into that spot anyway. But I will say this, is that I know that when I find that right person, I feel like I will want to do more for that person. And I think that's okay, and I think that's beautiful.
Well, I think, to me, what it seems like you're saying, though, and this is what I think all of us should at least consider. When you're by yourself, like when you're single, male or female, you really do what the heck you want to do.
Right.
Like, nobody's expecting you to do too much of anything.
Oh, God.
But then what tends to happen in life is as you get older, most people, not all people, most people want to go ahead and find a life partner, right? Now you're working with two people. And now you got to find out, and you know how they say women are Venus and men are Mars, right? So you got to now find out how those two people work together. You got to start finding roles, because you can't be two individuals and be locked together. It's not how it works. You got to become one somehow, right? Then you add children to that mix. And then it becomes, in my opinion, more important, because now you're not only guiding y'all's two lives, which really, if y'all wanted, you could split back apart and go live independent lives. But now you have a child, or more than one, and now they can't live on their own. That's a fact. So no child can live on their own. They need your guidance. So now it's even more important to start discovering roles. How are y'all going to blend this thing together? That's what I think, to me, you're saying, is that one day, not right now, because you're not married and you don't have children. So you see us, and we do have kids, and we are married. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's different role plays that we have to do now.
I think in every marriage, you should come together and decide what roles everybody's going to do.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
So what are you guys sitting at the kitchen table being like, okay, so...
No, I think it kind of just comes out naturally. Like, I think for me, there's some things that are just, like, I don't take out the trash.
Okay, so are you happy with the roles that you guys have set across the board? Are you guys...
Across the board, no.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, do you feel like with the what seems like it wasn't an actual conversation, it was just like, let's just we're going to fall into this place.
Watch your head.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like you have made gender roles that feel great for you and that feel like you've nailed it and that are like, ooh, yeah.
Absolutely not. And based on what your dad said, marriage is something that requires constant work.
Right.
You don't just get married and there's a role. People change. People grow.
Right.
It requires constant work. Two individuals can't work together.
Exactly.
So you're going to be constantly changing, and it requires compromise. And even though there are gender roles, best believe everyone is not happy.
Exactly.
Right.
Because I think I'm married to like an undercover feminist. You know what I mean?
Which is great.
She's constantly fighting. She doesn't believe in gender roles and all of those things. But
We should have had her here.
but gender roles, they serve a purpose.
Yes,
They serve
I
a
agree.
purpose where people, instead of us stepping on top of each other, you do this and I'll do this.
Right.
And if you don't want to do that anymore, then let's talk about it.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think
I do
that's
too.
fair.
I think that's
For
fair.
your life.
Oh, for your life. for your life,
Because-
we're not talking about
No,
it.
I would love to talk about it,
Uh-huh.
but I think it, to me, how I see it happening, and of course, like I think it'd be naive to say that this is exactly how it's going to happen when the
Right.
time comes.
Right.
But I feel like how I would like to approach it is we kind of just are constantly like trying to figure out what it is. Like if it is me who is not good with money or like keeping up with that kind of stuff, I would say you probably stand
Right.
for the health of this family.
Right.
And then I'm not a cook either. So maybe we need to figure that out.
But maybe you're the one. You go to the grocery store
Right,
and you
that's what I'm saying.
chop up all the veggies.
Right. Once he's
whatever.
done cooking, I wash the dishes.
Exactly.
I feel like I would really appreciate if we were able to have open discussions about what you feel like you're good at, maybe what I could learn to do.
Right.
And then what you could learn to do, what we're willing to compromise on. Who's gonna get up and get the kid?
Right.
I'll do it, but you do it next.
And I think that's part
Absolutely.
of marriage. It's just about compromise and working out who's better at what.
Exactly.
And
I
who's
think
better at work.
if you want to say, like, if I feel like I'm fine with being led. I'm also fine with leading sometimes as well. And I think
Absolutely.
that it takes that sometimes. Like if there's a moment where I know more, you best believe I'm about to step up in there and be like, what? Let me drive the boat, baby. Drive home, baby.
But you know, a lot of times too, I think people get in relationships or marry before they actually know the person that they're married.
I totally agree.
That
Yes.
you need to know, because once you're married and living under the same roof, a lot of things that you didn't know about that person begin to bother you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It could be something as small as the cleanliness of the person.
Right, yeah.
Not those big issues about cooking.
Right.
It's very small things.
Yes.
How
That's true. Yeah.
how
That's very
people move. And that's what I think your father was saying when he was like, you can't have two individuals.
No.
You can't just because you have one side of the bathroom, he has the other. Like,
Yeah.
this is the way I do it. And,
Right.
and he's like, this is the way I do it. Pretty soon you're going to be like, something's going to have to change here.
Right.
Right.
Something's
So
gonna
then
have to
that's where
change.
I worry about losing myself in that. You know what I'm saying? Like I really enjoy
So cute.
What?
I love it.
No, I would really worry about like, because I've been in a relationship before, right? And I was young, naive.
Right. 2 months ago.
It was like a long- it was
No,
old
but
school.
I would say that because I was so impressionable and just like madly, deeply like in love. I was like, I don't even know who I didn't do anything besides what I wanted to do with him. You know what I'm saying? I lost what I loved to do. And that's not his fault, it was mine because I was like, this is fun, this is cool, this is,
Right.
So I would be worried. I can't imagine what marriage is like if you're like, how do you keep that sense of
who you are.
who you are. How do you stay firm in that? And that's why I struggle with there's no individuals. Like, no.
But
What if I want to go do yoga on the mountain by myself?
You can
You can do that.
But
Yeah.
you can learn. The way I look at it is, and I was really, really set in my ways. I'm really set in my ways. And I like things a certain way.
Perry likes things. The
I
same.
like things a certain way, right? OCD, I like it like this. But if you approach a relationship like that, it's not going to work.
Right.
agree.
I mean, you can't force someone to become something that they don't want to be.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, you have to learn how to evolve as an individual. I'll tell you a quick story, right? Like with my wife. Like, I think she's undercover feminist. If I brought up gender roles, she automatically gets mad, right? She don't believe in gender roles, right? But I was a staunch believer in gender roles. This is what women do, and this is what men do. Now I'm gonna help you. Now I'm not one of those guys, kicking up my feet. I'm not that guy. I'm gonna help you, but like what she was saying. When in my household, my sisters never took out trash. They never mowed the grass. Those type of things was for the boy. So, but on the other side of it, they did what was considered feminine things.
Yeah.
Like they learned how to cook. They learned how to clean. Or, I mean, I had to do those things too, but there were certain things that didn't never cross lines, And they still abide by those in their lives right now. But my wife... So I do all those manly things, wash the car and all those type of things. And I expected her to do the other things.
Right.
But she was like, don't expect me to do those other things because, right. But you know what I learned from it is this. she would still get them done, but she wouldn't do them. Like, she would pay someone to do those things, right?
Okay.
So, but she told me she was paying someone for me.
Yeah.
Which ultimately I was mad at first
Right.
because I'm like, I want you to do it,
Right,
not
right.
it get done.
Right,
I want
right.
you to do it. But after thinking about it and many clashes,
Right.
I was like, you know what? She's right. Because instead of doing those things, she could be doing something more productive with her time. So it takes me 3 or 4 hours to mow my own grass. And she was like, you could pay someone
Right.
and you could be doing something else.
Right.
And, you know, sharing money amongst the community and all those other things.
Right, right,
and
right.
take less stress off yourself. And I was like, no, but that's not what a man does, you know?
Right.
You know, a man, a grown, healthy man doesn't pay someone to cut his
Right.
grass.
Right.
But then I was like, I could pay someone to cut my grass.
Right. Exactly.
I could pay
Yeah.
someone to wash my car, and I could be doing something else.
And especially for you, because you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
Yeah.
You have multiple businesses.
Right.
So there is actual things you can be doing.
I could
It
be
ain't
doing.
just so you can play PlayStation.
Exactly.
Right.
There is a
Exactly.
difference. What do y'all think about? Because you've mentioned it a few times. Undercover wife as a feminist. I mean, undercover feminist as your wife. What do y'all think about feminism, especially the sisters here?
Stand up, baby. Let's go. All feminism means is that we are looking for equality for women. And if that's the definition of a feminist, then that is what I am, and that is who I am, and I drop the mic there.
Okay, bam. Well, let me say, I believe in feminism in its real definition, but I do think, and so I'm going to read from a writer named Monica T. Williams. Okay, she's a woman of color, and she said, "True feminism has the power to transform society, but too often, what is advanced as feminism is actually white supremacy in disguise, a counterfeit we sometimes call white feminism. White feminism exists to promote the comfort and safety of middle class and affluent white women. At its core, it is a racist ideology that claims to speak for all women while ignoring the needs of women of color and suppressing women of color's voices while their agendas and priorities, whenever women of color's agendas and priorities don't align with theirs." And so there was, during this Me Too movement, right, which was obviously rooted in a feminist movement, totally great movement. I think it was great as far as its point, right? I do think it went places that were interesting, especially for men. Anyway, she says this, the same woman, Monica T. Williams, the Me Too movement included a responsibility for privileged women to stop victimizing. No, I'm messing up. She said this. She was at an event, and it was a feminist event. She was a feminist, and she is one. And she was at this event, and she said the Me Too movement included a responsibility for privileged women to stop victimizing men of color, many of whom have been lynched, beaten, incarcerated, and electrocuted on the false whisper of a white woman. So, do you get where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Where her point was, the whole Me Too movement, one of the most popular phrases was, "I believe her," right? And her point as a colored woman was saying, well, wait a minute, that doesn't always apply, and especially in the black community, where we know for a fact that white women have falsely accused black men of raping them or doing something. And so you get where there's this, okay, we get what white women's version of it is, and they have a right to have their version. What they don't have a right to do, if they're going to call it a woman's movement, is to squash other women who see it differently in their community. Because there's black women, I'm sure y'all would agree that there's times, you've seen it on the news numerous times, when black men are accused of raping a white woman, and it was not the case. So we can't just go with what white women feel comfortable going with, which is, I believe her.
Right.
We can't always go with that. What do you feel about that, Perry?
I totally agree, especially with let's marry the statistics of what you said earlier about who has a man inside their household, and black women being the lowest.
Exactly.
Right? Your version of feminism and their version of feminism, I agree with your version of feminism, but I don't agree with that version of feminism. And like there was a while back, I don't know if it's still the same. Someone said that black women were the only women they ever heard say that I don't need a man inside of the household. Now they have the I believe her type situation, but they also have their man inside of the house with them. Right? Black women, and this is not a black woman bashing thing, but there were a lot of women who say, I don't need a man.
Right.
But that, I think, feeds into the fact that it broke down our traditional household.
Exactly.
That's why the father, that's not the only reason. That's not the only reason why the father wasn't in the household. But then you start going into deeper things like the systemic racism part of it. You can have a household with you and your children, but the man can't be there.
Right.
You only can receive
Which
benefits
laws
if the
did
man
that.
is not
Exactly.
from
Benefits,
or whatever. But we're the only one that took it that way. And black women, to their strength, they have raised everyone. They have raised the kids without the father in the home. But why isn't the father in the home? Why is only black men not in the home?
And I think that boils down to what we all know is the healing that needs to happen in our community. Because I think you are correct. The language does need to change.
Right.
However, there is a lot of hurt. What black women are unprotected.
It is.
In a very big way. And that
agree with
is
that.
by
We're with you on
black
that.
men and society. The
Right.
truth is.
Very
So what we probably hear when we hear, I don't need no man, I don't need, my baby daddy does not have to be in the household, blah, 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 is really hurt, is what we're
Absolutely.
we're
That is
hearing.
what we're hearing.
And
Exactly.
so-
and hurt people
Exactly.
on all sides.
And I think that it is that language is so damaging.
It is.
But I think on the other side it plays as well. When, excuse my language, but we hear bitches and hoes and all this stuff on our records.
Right.
And we hear this language, we're stuck in a really toxic thing that I think needs to, the environment needs to change. That language that we use needs to change.
I could not agree with you more, Princess.
And we're talking past each other.
Yeah.
We're never
Past each
meeting.
other.
We're
It's
just
very
talking
true.
past
It's very
each
true.
other.
Let me say something to that. And this is my view, and I've been railing against our new black culture for quite a while, because black culture used to be family.
Right.
Yeah.
Our black culture in the 20s and even in slavery, where we had to be family. In fact, blacks in America tend to do very well when we really have a clear enemy. Like when we really know who's the enemy,
Right.
That's when you get
we
together.
bond.
Right.
It's the same difference with the George Floyd situation. We became closer as an entire black nation,
Right.
and some allies, of course, from other races. But in our community, we became close with that police brutality issue. You know what I'm saying? Like we started seeing it. I saw like trap rappers talking about conscious stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like because of it. My point is though, unfortunately, and I always rail against this, our new black culture, and I'm not talking about since the George Floyd thing, I hope that this sticks, but I'm a pessimist sometimes about that. We'll see. But our new black culture, unfortunately, like through our music, our entertainment, a lot of the pop culture narratives, especially that blacks embrace, and our food, and just all the various racism that goes on in America and the systematic realities that you were just alluding to, Perry. These things are toxic, and we've got to start talking about it more directly, like you said, Zoe, in order to change it, because it is corroding the very necessary fibers and foundations of what we need as a people. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna read a couple stats. The single biggest driver behind the absence of many black men is mass incarceration.
Right.
The single biggest driver behind the absence of many black men is mass incarceration. A few academics have held up ratios of black men to women as a proxy for incarceration. Despite recent declines in prison populations overall, the disparities between whites and blacks are still huge.
Yeah.
They remain massive between white people and black people in incarceration. African American males are imprisoned in state and federal facilities at six times the rate of white men, and about 25 times the rate for black women, according to figures from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Okay. So anyway, and it goes into real details. But real thing I was going to say was, it seems as if as our boys become men, they become less. So there's something, and this is how I see it at least. It's not that from birth there's more black women than black men. It seems from birth there's more black boys than black girls. But as black boys become men, we're losing them.
Right.
To death, which to me is eating habits. When it talks about kidney disease and diabetes, that's really, we're going back to food on that.
Right.
But then
Jail.
mass incarceration, which then to me means systematic racism. But if we're honest with ourselves too, it also means culture. Because you can't just blame all the black men in prison from systematic racism.
Right.
You can blame their length of sentences. You can blame a lot of things, but you can't blame it all on that. There's still some cultural things that's making men go a different direction in our community than a lot of men from other communities are going.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I don't want to make too big of that because I do realize that white men do a lot of the same crimes that black men do.
They just don't get as much time.
They just don't get any time a lot of times because the sheriff in that town is like, oh, I know Bobby, and Bobby's going to do better.
Boys are going to be boys.
Boys are going to be boys. We don't get that chance in the black community, right? And then we know that just in general, white families have more money to be able to fight cases better than black families. So there's numerous reasons why our kids who are doing bad or young men who are doing bad are going to go straight to prison, where a lot of white men who are doing bad are not going to go straight to prison. They're going to get millions of other chances. I had a friend, just as a side note, good friend of mine, white brother, he had a brawl fight. I think he beat up a police officer. Beat up a police officer, white guy, actually at my church. That's the kind of church I go to. What?
It's so silly.
No, I'm just joking. He beat up a police officer, a white guy, and he got some years, I think 2 years or so.
Yeah, I think
in
so.
prison, which in and of itself is low, right? For beating up a police officer.
Right.
First of all, a black man likely would have been killed.
Right.
So, beat up a police officer, got 2 years, came out. The year he got out, he became CEO of about 400 or 300 men.
Yeah.
What black man do you know that comes out of prison, because he went to prison, not just jail, he just spent jail time, he went to prison, can come out and be CEO of a big company? This was my friend, and I won't mention his name because I love him, he's a good dude. But that white privilege is a beast, right?
Yeah, because a black man would have a hard time doing that with the education on his back. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So anyway, I say all of that to say somewhere down the line, we're losing a lot of our guys. I do think that we'll go back to Sharad, to Miss Ali.
Miss Ali.
I'm going to play her
Okay.
and let you women call her seats.
Tear our man down, tear our nation down instead of building it up. Having an education and a job does not necessarily mean you have a successful life. I keep telling black women that to raise a child, they say, well, I provided with food, clothing, and shelter. That's not raising a child, that's maintaining one. To raise a child, you need a parental coalition of a man and a woman. We have sons who, by not having a father in the home, they don't know how to respect women. They take on the black feminine female emotionalism. They become bitchy, they're doubtful, they're indecisive, they can't make a decision. They don't know what to do about being a man because we can't teach them that. We don't have that knowledge.
Right.
We have daughters who grow up in a home where they don't see any affection, where there's no man there. They go out into the world and try to mate. They don't have no idea how to be no woman to no man, how to function in a house with a man, because they haven't seen it. Most of our children, just like us, get all the information we have about how you be with a mate off television. It's the only medium that shows us anybody being together. Those rules have not worked for us. The white woman's liberation movement, we don't have anything to do with that. We have not been under the control of the black man for over 500 years, so what do we have to get liberated from them from? They haven't been our boss. That's the white woman and her man. They're going through that, and that's their business. We don't have any business being in there. They only introduced it to break down the civil rights movement. Civil rights movement started with the black man, the black woman, and the black child standing together, trying to plead for freedom, justice, and equality, and more benefits in the country that they had built. They threw the white woman in there with the women's liberation movement and made it a woman against man thing. That created a big separation between black men and black women, because then everybody started going for self. Then they bring the welfare system in and tell us in order to feed and clothe and house our children, we have to give up our man. You have to put the man out of the house. When the white farm wife goes to the government for subsidy for the farm, they don't tell her to get rid of the farmer. They keep that family together. But in the black community, they make it a requirement. Because they want to keep endorsing into the black community that the black man is no good. And that he is not deserving of respect. He is not deserving of us letting him give us any protection or instruction, and that we are better than them. The major responsibility that the black woman has had on the earth for the trillions of years that we have been here has been one of nutrition and birthing children. Those two things have a great deal to do with the survival of any people, the reproduction of the nation, and feeding them the proper food so that they can live. Those are very important jobs. Those are very powerful positions, because it puts us in a position to decide who's going to live or die and how slow they're going to die by what we feed them. We have a very powerful position. That's not a small role that we play. We have just been taught to misrepresent and misuse that power. The people who we have been counting on to give us the truth about how to get along have failed. The white people don't know how to get along. They don't have that information themselves. They don't get along with nobody on earth. So they didn't have no information to impart to us about how we're supposed to get along. They change their relationship rules at will. We have, tons of black children around this country that I hear from who have grown up traumatized by the fact that they were referred to as the outside child. When we were having children like that, they called it illegitimate children until the white woman started having them, and now it's single parenting. They changed the rules according to what they're doing. So I've called on our people to change them depending on what we want to do, what our needs are.
So right there, I do think that, well, first I'll ask y'all, what do y'all think about some of the things she's saying, if anything, if you agree with anything, or do you...
I agree with what she's saying. I don't have a problem with what she's saying. I'm married. Q leads our house, and there's things that I do. So, I get it. I understand being submissive. I don't always just like the word.
Right.
But I do it every day. There's all kinds of things. But she did say something about, learning things from your parents and things like that. My mom, she's more submissive than I am.
Okay.
And I feel like it has to change over time. My mom is, she was talking to me the other day about me not cooking for Q. I'm just like, he's grown.
Right.
Ouch.
And she was talking about me not because Amani, it's summertime.
Amani's your daughter.
Yes, she's my daughter.
Right.
It's summertime. She's 11, and she doesn't eat always what we eat, and
Right.
she can fix what she wants.
Right.
So, fix it.
Right.
I want her to be an independent child.
Come on.
I'm raising somebody who can go out into this world and know how to wash her own clothes and how to cook her own food, because she may have, when she goes off to college, she needs to know how to do these things.
Absolutely,
If I do everything for her now, she's going to be lost when she gets out there.
Yeah.
So, me and my mom have different opinions about it. She feels like I should be, she's like, my mother cooked for me until I was 18 years old. She ironed my clothes. She made my lunch, And I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
hey.
And look at how you turned out. You gotta... No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I think that's fair. That's
Hey,
how
that's real.
life should go.
Yeah.
Cool. But that's exactly how Grandma lived.
Well, no, she didn't do this for me. Her mother
Her
did
mother.
that.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Oh, okay.
She didn't do that for me.
I thought
She
she
didn't
was
do
doing
that
that
for
for
me.
you.
Me.
I'm sorry.
No, but I'm like, so I think it's a gradual change, because she didn't do that for
Things
me.
change.
Yeah, they do.
And
They
so
do.
I think it's
And I don't
just-
think one is wrong, one is right. I think one works in the situation that they're in.
Right.
How Grandma grew up and how Grandma and Grandpa grew together, I think was how it should have been. I think it's exactly how it worked for them. They've been married 50-odd years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I think in some households, you better get those gender roles, and if you're feeling good with it, boom. But I think there also should be room for people to just be like, scratch it. I'm taking out the trash.
Right. Well, I do want to say, because I know,
with you guys, and for me too, sometimes the word submission, it feels like a dagger in the heart.
Yeah, it does.
But what it really means is an attitude of respect.
I love that.
You know, and so
Can we say that?
yeah, that's what
Why
it,
though? I mean, the word is there. It's shorter.
No, because
it's just an attitude of respect, and we're submissive in many different areas of our lives. We're submissive at our jobs. You know, you know what I mean. We're submissive in different areas, and so to be submissive in your marriage is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for the man or the woman. Right. And so I think if we just, you know, really think about what the definition means, I think it'll feel better.
I think I appreciate what you just said.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Thank you. Thanks.
to me, I think we do need to establish roles for men because, and roles for women, but especially roles for men because I think it's starting to dissipate. What exactly is a man? Or what? Not even saying exactly as a man, but what is a man other than a human being?
But can it be different in every relationship?
Like
because
what? Yeah.
what we've decided as who we are in our marriage is you do certain things and I do certain things and it works well for us. And then I think in another relationship, in another marriage,
totally
it can be totally different. And it could just be what it is, whatever works for your marriage.
Relationship, it could be like, well, the man is he likes cooking and he likes cleaning. He likes being with
What
baby.
is wrong with that?
Like what's wrong with that?
Why
if that's what he wants to do.
I
what's
agree
wrong
with
with
that
that?
personally, but Perry was shaking his head.
Why are we
No?
expecting
Why not?
men? Wait, why are we expecting men not to evolve and women to evolve?
Okay.
Come on.
Speak it.
Why
say
are we
it.
expecting men to just stay this primal self? This is how a man should be. Period. But we want women to change. We want women to evolve. We want women we're having all of these expectations for women, and why can't men evolve as well with the times?
What do we want women to evolve into?
You want women to, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
No, I don't. I personally don't. Go ahead, Perry.
Right,
Go ahead.
I'm with you, Speech. We don't want you to evolve.
Right.
Because
Wait.
you know, we don't want you to evolve. If you look, plenty of comedians have said it. There's one comedian said, I don't know who to give this quote to or whatever, but he said, you know, the problem with women is that they get their advice about men from other women. Like all those magazines that written.
That's a good point.
100 different ways to please your man and all that good stuff. It's not that. Men do not want our women to evolve. We are perfectly happy with the ball down version of
that's not a diss. What he's
that,
saying.
it's not. It's
That's not meant to be a diss.
Hey, thank you, Speech. It's the boiled down version of men are the simplest of creatures.
That's
we
true.
we only require a few things.
That's very true.
It's the woman who complicates it.
Oh!
Yes. So listen. I have one more thing to say. It's like I want to go back to what she said before. I don't know if it kind of went over our head, right? One important thing that she said before is that the role that we see in those women, the role that your grandmother played, is idealistic for us. It's something that worked. It's something, almost every animal, and humans are animals, learn by what they see.
Right.
Yes.
We cannot allow every man to be an individual because it would be like a raccoon walked in here, we'd be like, oh, that's a duck.
Right.
It has to have feathers. It has to have something. So as a man, we have to have a certain thing in order to be identified as a man.
Right.
We can't just be anything and be a man. All right, one time, I'm going to make this quick. My wife came home in her feministic thing when she was working out of the house, and she came home and she was like, I want to know what you think about this. I said, okay, what's the issue? There was a conversation at work about what we were talking about initially. I don't work, I'm retired. She works in the office, and there's guys that work in the office. There were guys in the office that felt that if the woman made more money, they felt the way about that. Like, there were men in there who actually told her that if their wife made $2 more on his paycheck, they feel less than. And they feel less than. There are men who think that way,
Right.
right?
No
And
doubt
she
about
wanted to know, what did I think about it? I'm like, well, I don't care how much money you make.
Right.
That doesn't change the roles in the household. I'm still the man of the household. I don't care if you made 3 times as much as I did. I am still the king of this castle. You're the queen of this castle. And if you ask Madison, and she'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Right.
She knows that she understands
Yes.
the roles
Madison's
Yeah.
in the
daughter,
household.
yeah.
It has absolutely to do with nothing, but I want to touch on what you said before. It's about, you know what really, the deep part about it, it's about our culture. We don't have culture here, we black people.
That's true.
Everyone else does.
Yeah.
Everyone else does. We don't. That's why our roles can change and move around so much, because our black culture that we have created has a lot of negativity in it. That's where you get that hoes and all
Yeah.
that stuff from, or whatever. We just kind of move in. We don't respect the black women the way that we're supposed to. And what she said before, and I'm going to wrap it up right here, when she said the roles that she's talking about, black women have taken that as a negative role. She said the fact that you're feeding your family and taking care of your family, that is the ultimate role. You
Absolutely.
decide.
How long they're gonna
I mean, because going back to what you said before, our biggest problems, one of the biggest statistics that you read is that we die early. We have
Exactly.
all of these complications.
Diabetes, heart
Even with
disease,
this,
kidney
all of
disease,
those
mass incarceration.
complications that we have, that role
Murder.
falls with the black woman. She provides the food to her family. We eat what we go as she goes. So, but black women have been taught, because of money and capitalism, is that I got to get out here and get it. I got to get this education. I got to make this money. But ultimately, that role is not as important as feeding your husband or feeding your child, because if you don't give them the right substance or whatever, they can't
That's good.
survive.
Well, I
It's
think,
not like
I
what
think
Tiffany
both
just
belong.
said, let the baby eat cake or whatever.
I didn't say that.
Hey, she's supposed to be in there teaching her what to eat, not
So,
just
I
eat
know,
anything
no,
you
no, no.
want.
She knows what to eat.
Okay. Go ahead.
I never
Money
said she ate
cutting
cake.
Money's eating ice
Cookies
cream.
and cookies and cake for breakfast.
No. I think both belong. I really do think both belong. And I don't think that there needs to be a world in which we just say, this is your job. This is literally your job. That's the end of it. Which feeding a family and raising a family is so important. And I honestly think that there needs to be more time of just like sitting and loving up on your children and, all that stuff. But I don't know if you'll be able to convince me that one has that they're exclusive. Like that there should just be a world in which women stay home and cook and clean because it'll raise the family. I feel like there's a way to accomplish both, and that might be saying let's give and take. Husband, can you come up and just help me out in this area tonight? I just need to spend a little more time here. Tomorrow I got it. I'll pick up the weight. Like I feel like because of the opportunities that women now have, we should be taking those opportunities and educating ourselves and going for our dreams and being amazing queens.
But black women now are
The most educated.
the most educated.
Right.
Most educated.
So what do you say
most
about the
educated, but has the
in the nation.
situation changed?
Right.
The situation has not changed.
Mm-hmm.
You are CEOs, you are running businesses, you're the most educated being in the United States. But has the situation changed? It hasn't, because the culture hasn't changed. You making a lot of money does not make for a better family environment.
I
And
agree
so
with
I
that.
think
Money
that
is not
plays
the
on
answer.
both sides, though.
Of course it does. No,
You know what
you're
I'm saying?
definitely
So
right.
like,
Absolutely.
if something is changing, and that is that as time goes on, black women are taking initiative and saying, I need to be more educated. I need to go for my dreams. I need to do this. So to me, how I say is, okay, well, some on the other side must need to be changing as well. You know what I'm saying? And that's also, I think this all boils down to having a genuine respect for each other. What was submission?
An attitude of respect.
An attitude of respect. So I think in order for me to be led, it has to be with humility. I don't see a way in which I could follow without humility on my part and without humility on his part.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that I reject toxic leadership. I won't be a part of it.
course.
I'll jump off the horse and say toodaloo. I will not do it.
Right.
If
we
I
get that.
find that it is coming from a place of love and respect and genuinely wanting to just go and do well in this world and create a legacy, sign me up, baby.
Right.
Well, I mean, I totally agree with all of that. You know, I think that as we were already talking about with gender, the real truth of the matter is I feel like, so I shouldn't say the real truth of the matter.
Right.
I feel like
Thank you.
Very good.
I feel like
Oh, the words.
exactly. I feel like men are supposed to lead. We are born to be leaders. I think that we are born to provide a particular outlook that women can't provide, and vice versa. Women are born to provide a particular outlook that men generally can't provide. Will there be exceptions to those rules? There are. There will be times, and I've seen it in marriages that I know, where the man will do all the cooking, the cleaning, and they
Take
are the
care
best
of the
at
kids,
it.
do the hair.
And they definitely should do
Yeah.
it. I know the woman and I know the man. I'm
Yes,
like, oh,
absolutely.
the man should do that because
Right.
you are not good at
Right.
this.
Right.
I also, though, know that even in our relationship, when we first got married, Yolanda had a view of cleaning every week.
You putting
Like-
my business out. Go ahead.
Once a week on Saturday, she would clean, right? It wasn't just a big priority to her, but yet my mom cleaned all the time, every day.
Whoa.
And so I was used to that type of.
I know. I'm like, let's
I'm here,
stop
I'm
the
here.
camera.
And so I was used to that type of episode. But I guess my point is though is that Yolanda started to compromise. She didn't used to cook a lot at all.
Yeah. I was not great at it.
Right, she wasn't great. Now your mother, y'all's mother, and well, actually, from what I hear, your mother wasn't even a great cook initially. Her mother was.
Right.
Right.
And your mother, when your grandmother passed away or was
Then
dying,
she started to. Yeah.
She
your
started.
mother started taking up the tradition and
Right.
feeling that. And she's now a master cook. Same with your father, though. He cooks as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And you started to learn to cook, a little later in our marriage. We've been together 30 years, right? So over those 30 years, but you've started to cook, and you're an incredible
Amazing.
cook.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
so I say all of that to say there is this humility, but there's also this give and take. But over time, you fill in different areas, and you got to be humble to playing the best role at the best time.
Because it's also starting to change as well, where mom is saying, okay, well, I need some help with dishes, or I'm going to need if I'm going to cook all day, or do whatever.
And I do a lot of that.
And
Excuse me. Let's back it up.
but you guys have had the discussion where
I
it
pick up the
changes.
dishes. I think
Wait,
after
let's
breakfast,
be-
Oh,
I
I
pick up
know.
the dishes.
You
Wait.
take them from the table and put them in the sink. That's not doing dishes.
I didn't say I did the dishes. I said I pick up the dishes.
Now, but what I'm saying to that point is that it changes, right? It changes, and it has to. That's
Right.
because mom said that there's a need. She's feeling like there's too much on her plate, and so that's where she asks and says, "I need you to fill in some places,"
And then
Well,
Dad
she actually
says,
said, "I need you guys to."
I know,
finish
that's what I was gonna say.
And that included
right. I know, I was going to say, and then Dad
this
says,
little finger has got a bunch of fingers pointing back at you. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy.
I know, we were talking about it yesterday, Dad was like, what about Zoe?
Right.
Zoe's,
Zoe
but
cleaning
she
the
didn't clean up
dishes.
nothing. She didn't
Oh,
do.
so first of all, I don't live here.
You
But
do.
you're always here,
You're here a
okay?
lot.
I don't live here, so you guys do. Okay.
Zoe gets here in time for breakfast and dinner. She is always here. Now, go ahead.
Okay, so long story short, there was a guy at the barbershop. I talked to him, young guy, probably your age, 20 or so.
Was he cute? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
And I was asking him, I was like, what do you think, man's leadership needs to be? And he's like, I don't think men need to lead at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I think women need to lead. I don't think men, we mess up everything. We don't need to do nothing.
But he also
I
said
think that's
that, he felt like a woman wouldn't be led. Couldn't
he
be
said,
led.
yeah, women couldn't be led.
Couldn't be led.
Now, he was raised by a single mother.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that we got to get back to before we bolt out of here on this
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah.
We're all married. Well, except for you. We're all married. The truth of the matter is there's an entire generation of people that's been raised without a father
Yeah.
being hugely prevalent in
Right,
their house.
right.
That's what the 80% basically is telling us.
Right.
So there's a huge market that we're talking to that's watching this, that they're like, first of all, I ain't even been around what y'all are talking about. I don't even have that in my life.
Very true.
So what is these, to me, what it means then is that women, because I really picked up something from what you said today, Perry, which was, and I never thought of this until you said it. You said, to me, it doesn't matter who makes more or less. And that money should not become this big pivotal thing that determines roles in a house.
Right.
That was, to me, that was an aha moment. I never thought of it that way. I used to think, for me, I used to think, well, whoever brings the most money then sort of dictates what happens in the household.
Most people
That's how we've
think
been
that.
living?
Yeah,
Most
to me.
people think that.
Well, why? I make the most money in that.
I know, but I'm saying that's how we've been. Because I don't feel like you dictate what goes on in our household. I feel like we talk about things.
We do.
And then we come up with what.
He said we talk about it and then we do what I say.
No, but that's not how it works.
Back up.
Okay, let me back up.
Instigator.
You know,
For real?
you know that I'm the head of the household.
I do know that.
No, we cut. Right.
No, I know that you're the head of the household, but in being the head of the household, you don't lord it over the household.
I never want. To me, that's a bad leader.
So we talk about a lot of things, and some things I agree with, and then some things I don't.
Without a question.
And we figure
Most
it
things
out.
she doesn't, ladies and gentlemen.
So, but
And we figure
Mom
it out.
always says, Dad is the head of the household.
And what am I?
the neck, baby.
And what does the neck do?
Turn it, baby.
Turn your head. What does it
But I like that because both are so important. Both are so important.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
so important. So
No, of course they're both important. So I do think that I feel like men do have a role though.
Yes,
and I do
absolutely.
think women can't be afraid to allow men to have a role, not just whatever to fill in. That's
Right.
not enough. Women, for instance, have babies. Man will never have a baby. Women, by nature, I know there's exceptions to this, have nurturing qualities to them. By nature of having babies, first of all.
Yeah.
You've been with the baby for 9 months before
Right.
the man even gets to see it.
Right.
Other than on these little weird pictures. And, you know what I'm saying, the little
Yeah, the
sonograms.
sonogram. Yeah.
But we don't get a chance to get in love with the baby per se.
Right.
You all are nurturers by nature. There's exceptions. You all have certain qualities that men don't have, and vice versa. Men have certain qualities that women do not have. And you gotta own that. You gotta own it.
I own it.
Okay,
Are
and
you
so
saying-
for women out there who
Okay.
are the breadwinners, the 80% that we're talking to, you still gotta own that men have certain qualities that you do not have. And even if you're the sole breadwinner, this is me speaking to you. I'm not speaking for everybody on this panel. Even if you're the sole breadwinner, you have to live up to the fact that men have a quality that men can bring to your table. And that's what I got from what Perry said. Even if you're the main breadwinner, it doesn't discount the fact that there's a role a man can play, not
Right.
just the role of whatever you're not playing.
Right.
Like in other words, okay,
Right.
well, I ain't doing the dishes, so you do it. I ain't washing the clothes because I'm out making the money. You do it.
Zoe.
I ain't do it. You do it. That's not enough.
I got from Zoe.
That's not enough. I think what we've got to come to the conclusion, or what we've got to agree upon as a community and as a culture, that men play a role, and you've got to be confident that protection, I believe that it's protection, that it's helping with vision on how the family can go.
Yeah.
Men think differently than
Right.
women do.
Yes.
Many times at least less emotional. I know there's exceptions to all rules, but many times less emotional, and therefore able to see things and some things clearer than women, and vice versa. There's
More
things
rational.
more rational.
Hello?
I think
More
that is a
rational.
very
What is
true
this turning
point.
into right now?
right. I was
But
like, what
to me,
podcast
all
am I
it's-
on?
I
to
know.
me, it's not a diss to women. All
Right.
it's saying is that there is qualities that men bring to the table. And I think it would behoove women to accept that, even if you're the sole breadwinner right now, and to encourage your sons, but also encourage the men around you to play their role. They have a God-given role, and
Okay,
they're
so
supposed to play it.
I-
And if they play it, it actually makes your life easier, sisters, and it makes our life shine the way we're supposed to. And
But
right
what
now, we're
I-
not shining the way we're supposed
What
to.
I hear you saying though is that it's the responsibility of the woman to encourage the man to lead. But if you're a man
And you're the leader.
you need to lead.
Step up, brother.
And
We agree on both.
it's
just
not
her
our job.
responsibility if she's the sole breadwinner and she's the only one having influence on a son's life, or if in the community they're having more influence, then I think that they should just do that for the sake of the entire community. I'm not saying
And
it's their
again, black
responsibility.
women protecting and having to step out of their ways to make sure that everyone's protected. Everyone's in their, perfect little, role and box.
It feels like a lot of pressure
a lot
for
of pressure on
the black
women.
women.
It is. But you're the
It's just like,
it is the truth. It is the truth, but everything comes from the black woman.
It
It
is.
is what they say to those who are given great gifts, much is expected. You are the mother of this earth. Yes, it's a lot of responsibility, but you have to do that. But there is personal responsibility, and I think your father said this earlier. The reason why we're talking, we can't just keep blaming black women. That's not what we're doing.
That's not what I'm
Black
trying to
men need to take
love
responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We
Black
need to
men
take
definitely
responsibility. It
need
is
to
not your responsibility to seek out a man and be like, okay, I'm gonna nurture you into becoming.
No, I agree. I do
Right.
agree. No, that's not what I meant.
That's not.
Right.
That's not what I
Right.
meant.
Here.
Right.
I agree.
Not happening.
Encourage is what I was saying, but I
Right.
just think it's it's not your responsibility to make us men.
Right.
I'm not
No.
saying that. But what Miss Ali was saying in the whole first place is that men have a role. It's important.
Right.
And women don't snuff out that role with men, even if you're the breadwinner.
Right.
And even if other men have done something wrong to you, find out, first of all, try to get better men, because there is some great men out here.
Right.
And strive to uplift men to where they can become what they need to become. It's not your responsibility.
Right.
I think men have to make men. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And have to help men do what they need to be doing. Anyway, so I don't know. That's what I feel.
Amen.
What y'all
I think
feel?
it's-
Are we has this topic been cooked?
I think it's cooked, and I am cooked as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching. We definitely want you guys to give your opinions. I know that the men in here definitely are going to get slayed. But thank you for watching. This is the Everyday People podcast. And I'll say a quote from a famous Negro poet, Arrested Development. No. I don't even know. I don't even have a quote. Songs like Mama's Always on Stage, songs like You. I talk about all of this. Thanks, y'all. Peace. We out.